Today's talk is titled, Are We Too Old for Youth? To be delivered by our own Randy Schwalbe. Our old Randy Schwalbe. I put that in on purpose. Randy is a member of the UUCC. He serves on the Board of Trustees as secretary. He chairs the worship committee, inviting speakers to this podium each week, creates these slideshows each week, prepares the WA script each week, teams with Andy Fagan on the AV squad to produce these services, and participates on the operations committee as the facility use advisor. In his spare time, he wrote this, by the way. I always go with his bios. I don't try and create them. In his spare time, Randy produces, writes, and directs the Follies, a part of the Pine Dorado Days Festival, opening at the Vets Hall on August 23rd. There's the first plug. He plays lead trombone in the San Luis Chamber Orchestra and runs a trombone quartet called Bon Appetit. You can hear them next Friday at the farmers market. Finally, for the past 10 years, he and his ever so lovely wife, Mary, join Janet and myself on annual week-long backpacking trips in the middle of the summer. Next week, we will be tackling another stretch of the John Muir Trail. Randy, you're on. There you go.
Good morning. Today's talk is a reflection intended to be delivered in a setting of calm and tranquility. And in spite of the events that took place yesterday on the East Coast, I ask that we can find that setting as we proceed. Thank you. Second, I want to thank the members of the Canberra Chorale for singing today's anthem. It was absolutely gorgeous. And this is only 1/5 of the chorale, so you can imagine that the sound they produce at their concerts. And in the spirit of the cheap plugs, if you like to sing, you're invited to join this chorale at 9 a.m. on Tuesday, August 20th, their first rehearsal at the Johnson Center. Okay, so just approach one of the members here today for more information. Okay, let's begin. Happy Bastille Day to you all. Celebrate like it's 1789 and let us all eat cake. Okay, I once ran across a particular birthday card with this sentiment: youth is wasted on the young. A profound sentiment by George Bernard Shaw. It is akin to something like being awarded the Nobel Peace Prize at the age of 18 for not killing your parents. In other words, the youngsters in our world are enjoying what should be the rewards for those who practice a lifetime of healthy habits. Instead, those who practice lifelong healthy habits still get old and decrepit. But remember how easy it was to do just about anything when you were in your 20s? But most often, this concept of youth does not include wisdom. Now, I'm not bitter, really. Instead, I have reached a significant milestone. In exactly 2 hours and 10 minutes from now, I will have completed 70 trips around the sun. Yes, today is my 70th birthday. So to celebrate my milestone, I will take this opportunity, not to talk about me, even though that wouldn't make for a riveting sermon. Today, I will take a moment to reflect on the passage of time and what it means to me and likely many of you. Now, this thing called time is a weird concept in and of itself. Is it real or is it an illusion? Is time really a construct of the human race's obsession with measuring? Well, We now know that there is an infinite well of evidence that time does exist. The passage of day and night, the changing of the seasons, animal migration patterns, and our eager dog awaiting his dinner every afternoon at exactly 4:30. Okay. At this time, I will focus on a particular aspect of time, the arc of a human life, an arc that represents the passage of time between the start and end of one's life. So let's start when you were in the second grade, sitting there learning about time by staring at the classroom clock, wondering why it moved so agonizingly slow, and sometimes wondering if it was even moving at all. Each school day took freaking forever to end. Summer breaks always seemed out of reach. Birthdays and Christmases took dang forever to arrive. In my case, having a summer birthday, it's like having 2 Christmases evenly spaced each year. And I felt sad for my friends who had birthdays in late December. Now picture yourself today. Okay, most of us are retired and engaged in personal and community activities. These days, every time I glance at the clock, the hour hand has moved 3 or 4 or 5 numbers ahead. A week ago feels like yesterday. I hear myself and others remark that we're just getting the hang of a particular month around the 20th. I mean, doesn't it feel like we just started July? Yeah. Okay. So why is our perception of passage of time so different at each end of our arc? I contend this shift was gradual as we moved through our arc. Case in point, how obsessed with time were you during your 40s versus your teens or now? As a kid, I was frustrated with the agonizing amount of time it took to get into adulthood. I had this immense event horizon in front of me, but could not touch it until it was time. These days, my event horizon is disappearing at an astonishingly fast rate. I have so many things yet to accomplish, but I'm quickly running out of time and relevance. But in my 40s, I was safely off the career launch pad, and retirement was still a far off concept. My event horizon was virtually meaningless during my midlife. However, those who take a peek at their event horizon, perceiving it slipping away, will experience the proverbial midlife crisis. Hello, 30-foot yacht or Lamborghini Aventador that you or they could ill afford. Back to the arc. Can you remember how you viewed people in their 50s and 60s when you're 10 or 12 years old? I thought those people were old and quickly reaching irrelevance, particularly with the understanding of this thing called retirement at the age of 65. After that, folks were just put into a holding pattern for the inevitable, hanging around merely to populate the Thanksgiving table and expand your Christmas haul on December 25th. Now, let us think of those in their 50s and 60s. And now maybe this makes sense. So, whoops, I didn't mean, I forgot to delete that slide. Okay, sorry about that. Go on to me. Last Sunday, the theme of the Congregational Circle, hosted by Diane DeMarco, was friendship. 2 things stood out to me that morning: the depth of each individual's experiences with friendships throughout their lives, and more surprisingly, how time played a significant role in the course of friendships developed, sustained, and lost. Time was not just turning the pages of their past, but how time impacted the quality of those friendships. So the passage of time is the passage of time a friend or an adversary. They say no one has ever beaten Father Time. However, time does provide wisdom. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where that third hand came from. That's pretty weird. All right. But let's get to why you're all here this morning. You want to know what's up with the title of this talk. Are we too old for youth? And the answer is yes, if that's what you choose. My dad chose it at the age of 70 and merely existed for another 15 years. I tried so many ways to get him re-engaged with life, but was met with a bevy of excuses. I had only wished I could have converted that energy he expanded, being stubborn, to being truly alive. And now here I am with an entirely different attitude. I say, no, you're not too old for youth. My body may not always agree with me or my enthusiasm, but youth is mine if I want it. And if I reach my 90s or become a centurion, I can flaunt my youth with impunity. Ask Margaret. And there's always a but, the youth I possess is different than the youth the youngsters out there have. Our youth comes with an added bonus called wisdom. We earned it. All the foolish mistakes we made, all the hurt we caused others, and all the forgiveness we gave and received, all the heartbreak and disappointments. And don't forget all the glorious moments of accomplishment and celebrating other people's successes, and all the hugs and kisses, all the dinners with family and friends, and my favorite, all the visits to sushi bars for Mary's birthdays. Simply put, the aggregate of our life's experiences is our story. The derivative of this story is our wisdom, the gift of time. Today, I am looking at the rest of my life. I have nothing to prove, nothing to accomplish, and no one to report to except marrying Shifu for his midday treat. So, do I have a purpose? According to what I just covered, I have wisdom derived from countless experiences. And yes, I'm highly motivated to leverage this wisdom, not for the sake of a legacy, but giving back by contributing my skills and abilities to make things work better in our community, creating something to share, and to lend a helping hand with no expectations of reward or compensation. At this stage of my life, this part of my arc, this is the right thing for me to do. I feel this because all through the previous portion of my arc, in spite of all the errors I committed, there was a remarkable conglomeration of sound decision-making mixed with amazing opportunities and lucky breaks. Now, I get to take credit for the decision-making part of this conglomeration, but I do not have the opportunity to pay back all those who made me what I am today. And you guessed it. The renowned author Catherine Ryan Hyde here in Cambria wrote a book that's been made into a movie called Pay It Forward. Basically, its premise is that if you are not able to, or it is impractical to repay someone who helped you in a significant way but has moved on, then resort to doing the same for others without expectations. It could be something as simple as leaving an extra $40 at the cashier at a drive-thru to help pay for the food that will be ordered by the car behind you with a woman and 3 kids. Or on a bigger scale, leading a committee that provides scholarships to high school graduates, distributing food for the less fortunate, or cleaning our local highways. And doing these things with the same sense you have when offering a heartfelt acknowledgement, or gratitude. No expectations of acknowledgments are expected in return. Your heart is already happy and full. That's all you need. Okay, I strayed a bit from today's topic, or maybe I didn't have one to begin with. So let's get back to this youth question. Another way to answer whether or not you're too old for youth is how you plan to use the wisdom part of it, and just as important, how you plan to maintain what is left of the physical part of it. As we move toward this end of our life's arc, our medical proclivities tend to dominate our conversations. Have you noticed? When I was in college, enjoying leisurely after-dinner conversations with fellow students at the dormitory, classes, sports, relationships, and maybe politics were the topics covered, but rarely anything regarding health. Now, at the end of our life's arc, a typical conversation begins and often ends with health issues, your own, the person you're with, and everyone else in your orbit. Next time you run into someone you know at the croc, make note of the topic of your conversation. I contend that the nature of our physical status plays an important part in determining the manner in which we dispense our wisdom. It should be obvious that there is a direct correlation between wisdom of your youth and the health factor of your youth. The fewer aches and pains, the more motivated you will likely be to participate and serve. Can you say pickleball? But there's yet another strong consideration when planning the use of our more aged version of youth. Time. You recall just a little while ago, I was commenting on the passage of time that defines our life's arc. Well, here I am looking at the final segment of my arc. I would like to think I'm looking at the second half of my arc, but who knows? Anyway, when planning my youth that I claim I am too old to have, I must look at it through the prism of a diminished event horizon. Unlike my younger years, coming out of college with almost an infinite number of choices, I now have to be very selective. The notion of a long-time career is behind me. Thoughts of winning, the thoughts of becoming a world-class musician or athlete are behind me. Thoughts of winning the Nobel Prize, well, that was never in front of me. I was not focused enough for that lofty goal. Okay, so, this is 25-year-old me playing sousaphone with a ukulele band during practice. If I could have lunch with 25-year-old me, I wonder if the 25-year-old would be impressed with my accomplishments, my journeys, and my depth of understanding of human relations. I would be sitting there at the restaurant feeling sadness and pity for this clueless concrete head, the 25-year-old me. And a disclaimer here, I am still a concrete head, but now it's intentional. And yes, I'm trying to hold back my pride. Back to the lunch. What would I express to this impertinent fool that youth is indeed wasted on people like him? That he has not the foggiest idea about how to appreciate youth and make it work to his advantage? Well, I will never get to know the answer to these questions because that lunch date is not a possibility. It's just a pipe dream. But if it were, I do know what the 25-year-old me would be thinking. He'd be thinking, who is this barnacle? And why am I sitting here having lunch with a 70-year-old curmudgeon? But at least he's paying for my lunch. Now instead, what if I could have dinner with the 100-year-old me? That looks just like me, doesn't it? I just like that one. Okay, based on statistics, there is a better than even chance that he won't exist, but I'll bet against the odds and have that dinner. I suppose the first thing he would say to me is, Congratulations, you managed to make it this far. Therefore, you're no longer a concrete head. Impressive. I would, in turn, ask about Margaret Randall. Oh, she's still her cantankerously lovable self in her 120s. Then the conversation would quickly shift to what our older selves typically do in a conversation like these: offer advice. Like I need advice at my age. But I practice kindness to my elders, and I listen intently as the 100-year-old me lays out a 10-point dissertation. He will say, first, don't save anything until later. It's a waste of space, both physical and mental. And later is such a nebulous concept anyway at this end of your life's journey. Second, if you have any dreams, make them happen now. Just do it. Third, be purposeful and intentional. Do I sound like 100-year-old me? No. I'll try this voice. This is a good advice, always. But the loss of relevance, you will have to put extra energy into this one. Fourth, keep on learning. Stop watching so much political porn on the internet and read more books. Aristotle once said, learning is an ornament in prosperity, a refuge in adversity, and a provision in old age. Fifth, let go of your past ambitions and regrets. Don't let them stand in the way of where you are going now. Think about it. It is very likely nobody is holding you to account. Sixth, keep moving. All that sitting at the computer will eventually turn you into Rodin's The Thinker. Hey. 7, love yourself. You really can't love others if you are full of self-loathing. Do you recall principle number 1? We affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Well, that includes yourself. The irrelevance will creep into your psyche by virtue of ageism brought on by society in many rather unobtrusive ways. Fight through it. Do what you love and love what you do. In the meantime, treat yourself to a massage once in a while. 8th, eat less and get more sleep. There's no need to go for thirds at dinner, nor eating past midnight. And stop with this 2 a.m. bedtime routine. Go to bed before the end of the day, midnight. Okay. 9th, commit a random act of kindness at least once a week. You spoke about unacknowledged good ideas earlier this morning at church. Well, practice what you preach. Okay. At this point, the 100-year-old reaches out and gives me a good slap on the back of my head. Okay. And finally, take every opportunity to say, I love you. It never gets old if you are sincere. Okay. Then, over dessert, I will say, thank you, 100-year-old me. I want to be just like you when I get older. What a putz, he says, as he disappears into the ether. When Mary and I make dinner tonight, it'll just be for the two of us. So, I may have spoken a lot about myself and my other selves, but this approach was intended to reflect on time and aging. As Satchel Paige once remarked, age is a question of mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter. And that's how I'm going to enter into my new decade. A couple of years ago, I wrote and directed the 2022 Follies titled The Wizard of Cambrias. In the original story, and sorry about this photograph, it's really bad, but in the original story, each character had reason to see the wizard. In my show, Dorothy, played by Catherine Taylor, wanted to get back to Bakersfield. The Scarecrow, Al Curtis, wanted to be more metro. And the Tin Man, Ted Key, wanted to get out of debt. And the Lion, Otis Archie, wanted to regain his youth. When the gang was approached by an intimidating lion who challenged them to a game of pickleball, they asked about the lion's plight, and here's how it went. Lion, my life is simply unbearable. I'm no longer a lion. Scarecrow, huh? You look like one. Lion, no, I'm no longer a member of the Lions Club of Cambria. Tin Man, did you quit or did they toss you out? Lion, they passed a rule that when a member reaches a certain age, he or she is no longer useful. My own club has disowned me, and every day I just seem to get older. Scarecrow, why is that? Lion, just bad luck, I guess. And there you have it. Getting old can indeed be attributed to bad luck. But it's only bad luck if you choose not to include youth in your life. And remember how agonizing it was waiting for Christmas morning to open all those wrapped presents under the tree? Well, the present for me, I don't have to wait, for the present me, I don't have to wait for Christmas. Every morning when I wake up, I can see all the lovely trees surrounding our house and sometimes sunlight as well. And the feeling I have is akin to opening a present, and inside a brand new day is waiting for me to romp through it. And I make a point to always spend time outside to experience each day, whether it's playing tennis, hiking, or working in the yard. Merry Christmas. So there it is. Oh, did I? There it is. Youth is yours if you want it, but I'm not going to wander around aimlessly with pure idealist thoughts about trying to be young again. I will acknowledge that realism is and will always be a constant factor. I'm heading right into the other end of the life arc, like it or not, with no regrets. And will invite my friend Youth to come along for the ride. In a week, Sue, Janet, Mary, and I will put our age to the test once again, backpacking for 6 days in the rugged terrain of the Sierra Nevadas. This shot is from last summer in front of the Grand Tetons. We don't move as fast as the youngsters out there, but they do admire our tenacity and trepidation. Ingrid Bergman, an A-list Swedish actress, summed it up perfectly. Getting old is like climbing a mountain. You get a little out of breath, but the view is much better. Thank you.